One of the things that I found is basically that depression is one for one with suppression. Yeah. Level one consciousness, life is happening to you. Level two consciousness, life is happening by you. Level three consciousness, life is happening for you. And level four consciousness, life is happening as you. For me, please, please look after yourself to the best of your ability.
Hey, everybody. Our mission here at the Heart Coherence Collaborative is to get people in touch with the healing power of the heart.
And we really need your help. Right now, only 1% of viewers subscribe. We are aiming to take that number to 6%.
The reason why we want to do that is the more people that subscribe, the more people in the world can learn the magical practice of heart coherence.
So please help us out. If you've ever listened, if you love this message, please just take a moment to subscribe.
Thank you so much.
We love.
Welcome, everybody, to the Heart Coherence Collaborative. We're so excited. We have our new friend, Amrit Sandhu, with us today. Welcome.
Oh, guys, it is such a pleasure, Kyle, Leah, to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It is such a treat and a pleasure to be amongst such, just incredible heart-led warriors. So, an absolute treat for me to be here.
Yeah. So, one of the reasons we reached out to you is just because you have this amazing energy. Your YouTube channel has this phenomenal energy and it's growing rapidly. So before we dive in, you've agreed to do a meditation today, which we're so thankful for. But before we do that, we'd love to just hear about you, a little bit about yourself. If you could just introduce yourself to our community.
Sure, guys. So thank you so much for the space. And things have been growing rather rapidly, rather recently. Touch wood, very grateful for that. A little bit about me. So my background is that of an engineer. Prior to that, I guess I've got Indian heritage. Why do I say all of that? Well, my biggest, having interviewed so many people on the podcast, one of the things that I just keep seeing again and again and again is that our biggest challenges in life generally equal our biggest gifts. And I just see that as a consistent theme amongst so many different people. It's a cool awareness to have at some level as well. It's not great when you're going through your challenges, but if you've got that sort of meta awareness, it can be really supportive as you're going through your challenges to kind of not bypass the lessons, but at the same time, sort of have the awareness to go, oh, like I wonder what I'm going to grow into on the other side of this, if that makes sense. And that's informed by, as I was coming out of, when I first early joined university, coming out of my, say, teenage years, I struggled with 6 years of depression. And that was really challenging for me. And the way I, share about depression is, not that we have enemies, but I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy, like it was just just a really hard, tough place to be for so many reasons. And I don't think it always shows up the way people expect it to show up, but we can talk more about that. That was 6 years of depression. And that sort of, I got actually diagnosed with major depression, and my psychiatrist at the time gave me antidepressant pills. Massive asterisk here because I'm about to say the pills weren't right for me, but I totally acknowledge, having been a coached over 360 people now one-to-one, certain people, you do have chemical imbalances in your mind, and, like serotonin needs support. So, like using SSRIs can be super helpful. But also stats are starting to get really interesting. Like 2025, we're getting to a point where they say 1 in 2 are going to be anxious or depressed globally. That's like, you can't, I don't know. Sorry, guys. I'm not buying that 1 in 2 people need to walk around medicated just to navigate reality. That's just not part of, what I believe is what's right for us, and put right in apostrophes there. So for me, by some grace of God, my GP actually recommended a breathing exercise. And I remember taking on the breathing exercise, and I was like, breathing, like I was a young adolescent male, so pardon me for how this is going to sound, but I was like, breathing, woman, are you serious? Like, I'm here, I'm sitting in front of you, like breathing, like I've been breathing for the last 20 odd years. Like, what are you talking about breathing? Like, of course I breathe every day, every moment. She gave me a step-by-step breathing exercise. And I remember like applying the breathing exercise, and I was in a very anxiety provoking situation. We can talk about was struggling with depression, and yet this was anxiety provoking. And oftentimes they treat both the same, anxiety and depression. And we can talk more about that if need be. But the key thing in there is I was in this anxiety provoking situation, and the walls were closing in. And by some grace of God, I engaged with this breathing exercise. And with each breath, the wall started to move out and I just felt more space inside. And I was like, what is this? Because I remember taking my first pill, my first antidepressant, and as I took that, my God, like it was amazing. For 4 hours, I was on a high, but afterwards, I didn't crash, but I leveled back out to where I was. And I didn't know much, but I sort of knew that I didn't really want to live on a roller coaster. I didn't want to go up and down and up and down and be like dependent on a crutch. So I remember throwing the pills out and then not really having a lifeline, which intuitively was a very interesting decision to make. But nonetheless, going through and yeah, finding this breathing exercise. And then that evolved into I read a book called The Happiness Trap, which led me to mindfulness. And from there, I started growing into the power of now, which was Eckhart Tolle, and really understanding meditation, and always having a history as an Indian, like having a heritage as an Indian. Meditation was always that thing my father did, my mother did, but I never really connected to. And so it was you could almost say the gateway or the portal was always there for me to connect into, and that was when the timing sort of became right. So that was my first big dark night of the soul, if you will, and those were sort of the gifts that came from those challenges. Was meditation and mindfulness led me to becoming a meditation teacher. But with all of that self-awareness, I then, graduated university, did really well. Actually, when I graduated university, got like this really incredible job, corporate construction here in Melbourne, Australia, building high-rise towers, 50, 60-story towers, doing, incredible work, touch wood. But it was completely out of alignment with my values. Like it wasn't what lit up my soul. And for 7.5 years, I persevered while what I like to sort of say the existential cat was being rubbed the wrong way, showing up to work every day, feeling like it was just completely out of alignment with my energy. And I think it was at a time where collectively there was more and more awakening happening. I think we're still sort of going through many of those shifts, but like I think there was a time where you could trade 8 hours of your time and not do what you love for 8 hours, but then outside of work, like go spend time with your kids, have your green juice, go to yoga, do your thing, go to the gym, and still feel quite content with your life. But I think now the boundaries on life, work, and all that have come, like, starting to dissolve. And it was just becoming really difficult to navigate all of that. So, yeah, that was the birthplace of the Inspired Evolution podcast. I saw people such as yourself, incredible people having a positive impact in vein of like what they wanted to do. They weren't necessarily making it their livelihood, but they were having a positive impact. These are coaches, speakers, entrepreneurs, thought leaders. And so these were my inspirations, and I was ready to evolve. So that was the Inspired Evolution, and I was ready to sort of make my way into that. So that was the birthplace of the Inspired Evolution. That was about 8 years ago. We've been doing an episode a week. Now we do two a week for the last 18 months, which also contributes, touch wood, to the rapid growth you guys are referring to. Yeah, it's been a total journey. But those are my two big challenges, if you will, in my life thus far, touch wood, and those are the gifts that have come from it. And I think that provides a little bit of context to who Amrit is.
Yeah, man. I just want to say, even though your story is unique to you, I felt like you were telling my story. And I feel like a lot of people probably can resonate and feel like your story is their story, man. So thank you for sharing that. And, you know, I feel you on all that pain you went through, and how it does actually inspire evolution, and
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, so I know we both probably have so many more questions after we do this meditation, which I
Yeah.
think is going to be a wonderful way to start out. We don't always do that, but it always sets a good tone for the interview part.
Beautiful. You want to do it now? That sounds good. Okay.
Oh, you mute?
I could guide a silent meditation.
Silent meditation.
Just look forward and transmit.
This guy's
spiritual
hardcore.
He's brilliant.
Sure. Alrighty. Well, let's take a moment, guys, to settle in, wherever you are tuning in. I invite you to, just take a moment to make yourself comfortable. Whether you're sitting, whether you're lying, there's not really a right or wrong. Just whatever feels right for you, your body, your mind at this present moment. Taking a few moments to adjust. Settling in, inviting you to close down your eyes. Just before we start to venture inwards, just taking a moment to acknowledge yourself for showing up for today. for today's practice, for today's meditation, to showing up to this podcast, for showing up for yourself. Just taking a moment to acknowledge what that means to you, for you to show up for yourself. From here now, see if you can take a moment to start to open, start to listen to the sounds in your environment. Naturally, there's the sound of my voice, but see if you can stretch your listening a little further. What are the sounds that you can hear right now that are furthest away? There might be sounds outside, maybe sounds inside. Allowing the sounds to behave as sonar, informing you of your presence in the present moment, here and now. See if you can stretch your listening. Noticing perhaps that as you're stretching your listening, in fact, what you're stretching is your awareness. From here now, I invite you to see if you can contract your listening, contract your awareness, and bring it to your immediate body. Some people call this your aura, your being, just around your person. Continue to listen to the sound of my voice. What sounds are in your current environment, just around you? And as you're continuing to contract your listening and your awareness, see if you can bring that even closer home to your body and see if you can go from listening to the sounds to listening to the sensations of the breath in your body. Going from something audible to something kinesthetic. Noticing the breath in your body as you breathe in. And as you breathe out. Seeing where your focus and attention naturally goes as you breathe all the way in. And all the way out. Perhaps you're noticing the rise and the fall of your chest or your belly. Breathing all the way in. Breathing all the way out. Perhaps you're noticing the breath coming in and the coolness, the texture of it as you breathe in. And the warmth of the breath as you breathe all the way out. As you continue to breathe now of your own accord, breathing in, Breathing out. Perhaps you even begin to notice that the more you anchor into your breath, the more awareness you bring, naturally, the deeper and deeper your breath just happens to go. Breathing all the way in. And all the way out. It's a beautiful metaphor for life. The deepening of the breath moment to moment. It's reminding us that the more presence we bring into each moment, the deeper and the richer our experience of life itself. From here now, I invite you to take a moment to visualize a loved one, a pet, could be your partner, could be a family member, something you truly dearly love. Just you see this thing, this person, and you can't help but radiate and emanate your deepest joy. It can be a plant, can be a person, can be a thing. You just bring this person to your mind's eye now as you continue to breathe. Just feeling all the feelings that are invoked as you visualize and see this person in your mind's eye. Seeing what it is that you feel in your heart. Noticing the color, the texture, whatever it is that's coming up for you, just noticing the frequency of the joy in your heart. This is your love. Now see if you can expand that feeling, that energy, that light of your heart to encompass your body. Push it from your heart just a little bit further in your next exhale. Breathing in. And as you breathe out, just allow it to encase, envelop, fill up your body, and just beyond the borders of your body. Continuing to breathe. As you breathe now, see if you can expand this light, this love, this awareness, this joy to fill up the room that you're in. You can just expand this light, this awareness from your heart to fill the room that you're in. Being mindful with all the life that you're coming in contact with, the plants, the other people in the room, animate objects, inanimate, just allowing them to be enveloped, them to soak in your love. On your next exhale, see if you can now stretch this a little bit further. Push it out to your neighborhood, your locality, your city, depending on where you are. See if you can visualize your light, your love, your joy expanding to envelop and encompass your city, your neighborhood. You might see an aerial map of your city. You might actually have a sensation of your heart stretching. Just however it shows up for you. You're doing it perfectly. Again, breathing in. And on the next exhale, see if you can extend your love, your light, your awareness, this joy to uncover the state or the province that you're in. And once again, breathing in, seeing now if you can stretch your light even further to encompass the country that you're in. As you continue to expand with each breath, you can take this light from your heart and allow it to encompass the continent that you're in. Continuing to breathe, allowing the light to encompass the hemisphere, north or south, where you reside. And ultimately, from here, taking a deep breath in and breathing all the way out, feeling your heart and the light, the joy, the love emanating and encompassing the entire planet that you're sitting on. Feel that connection, that joy, that warmth radiating to all life on the planet. You can feel into the interconnectedness of all things. Feeling into the life of the people, the animals, the life of the mountains, the waterways, the deserts, the savannas, the forests, the rainforests. So many incredible gifts. Just feeling into all that love, all that light, all that joy in your heart, connected to the earth. From here now, there's surely a couple of things in your life to be grateful for. As we stay connected, but just switching gears, see if you can bring to mind 3 things in your life that you're grateful for. Potentially moments that passed recently, big or small. Maybe you didn't stop to reflect on, or you did stop to reflect on, but you just want to really connect to with gratitude. Taking the time now just to bring 3 things to mind, to connect to, express your gratitude to, take yourself back into the moment. Really feel your gratitude, your love. Fill yourself up with your gratitude. If you can avoid just checklisting things in your mind, but rather feel them in this radiating heart of yours. Noticing also that bigger is not necessarily better. You can find the gratitude in the smaller things. There's some real magic in that. From here now, switching gears a little bit further to find 3 things about your work to be grateful for. 3 things about your work that you engage with day to day that you're grateful for. Could be that you have work. Could be that you enjoy what you do. Maybe you don't enjoy what you do, but the paycheck enables you to do some really cool things outside of work, support your family. Maybe it's the person you're becoming, skills you're developing. 3 things about your work that you're grateful for. So you continue to breathe now. Invite you into 3 things about yourself to be grateful for. These are your character. Maybe it's your joy. Maybe it's your abundance. Maybe it's your laziness and you always look for the most efficient way to get things done. Could be your caring, could be your focus. 3 things that are uniquely you that you can give thanks for. Noticing that this is the gateway to self-love. Whole spiritual path waiting for you right here as you express gratitude and love for yourself and who you are. And for bonus points now, giving thanks to 3 people. Again, can be a pet, can be a plant. 3 people in your life. Remembering that human connection is such an incredible gift. It's a vital part of what gives our life meaning. Bringing to mind, bringing to your heart, emanating your joy, extending it out to 3 people that life just wouldn't be the same without. And you're now noticing the quality of your breath, quality of your state. I invite you to take a moment to take stock of your energetic state and being, how you feel in this present moment, connected to your heart, dripping in gratitude. This is you. This is your joy, your abundant self, your vital self. Just feeling into how it feels to be home with you. Allowing yourself to benchmark is true you, connected to your being through and through. As we take a couple more deep breaths here, weaving our way towards the end of our meditation, breathing all the way in and all the way out. Stay connected to your heart as you breathe all the way in and all the way out. Then when you're ready, bringing your hands together in prayer just in front of your heart, rubbing them together, just bringing a little bit of warmth and friction. And they're feeling nice and warm, just covering your eyes with both hands. And then when you're ready, not a moment sooner, opening your eyes behind closed hands. And then taking your time, when you're ready, lowering your hands, coming back into the space. There's no rush. When it's right for you, as we gently come back into the space.
Thank you.
Should have asked the question before.
I know.
Now,
I'm not too relaxed to ask questions, man.
Oh, thank you, man. That was
Well,
great.
no questions, only answers.
Yeah.
Thank you,
What you got?
guys. Thank you for the
No,
space.
I'm an interrogator by nature. I have plenty of questions. They just all came back.
That was very good, man. Thank you so
It
much.
was
Touch
really,
wood. It's an honor. Thank you, guys.
Go ahead.
so I would love to go back and talk more in detail about some of the things that you said. You were talking about the period of time where you were depressed, and I think, like you made that caveat that there are occasionally some people who their chemistry is off, and sometimes even that can have to do with nutrition and can be fixed. But for most people, they're depressed because their life is depressing.
Mhm.
And I think that without a goal that you're working towards, it's very easy to feel depressed. So what did you discover about that time? What was lacking and what was going on that led to your depression?
This is an epic question. All right, give me 2 secs because we're going to introduce a few mental models and then that'll help us understand exactly what's going on there. Thank you. So, guys, have you come across Michael Bernard Beckwith, Four Levels of Consciousness? And he talks about that there. I just want to sort of introduce that there because level 1 consciousness, life is happening to you. Level 2 consciousness, life is happening by you. Level 3 consciousness, life is happening for you. And level 4 consciousness, life is happening as you. Level 1, affectionately or unaffectionately, is known as the victim because life is happening to you and you're just kind of subject to its whims. And we've all been there. I've been there. That's where I was when I was depressed. Touch wood. Then there's level 2, which is life is happening by you. And this is where you set goals and you achieve things. And, and the faculty that actually gets you from level 1 consciousness to level 2 is actually what they call questioning. You start to question the nature of, do I have to be this way? So do I have to be like, is life meant to be like this? And I can hear this in the nature of your question. And then there's, can we set a goal to sort of dig ourselves out? And absolutely that helps us, right? But also generally the people that I work with are between level 2 and level 3 consciousness, sort of moving into that space. Level 2 consciousness, life is happening by you. And this is because of the second awakening that I had is like, yeah, I set some goals. I've had a great deal of self-awareness with meditation and mindfulness, but then I still ended up in a career, 7.5 years of misalignment. And so you can achieve a lot of success setting goals for yourself, but not necessarily fulfillment. And that's where level 3 is all about life is happening for you, right? So I look back at both challenges now with such love and gratitude. I wouldn't be the meditation teacher that I am had I not gone through 6 years of depression. And that was meant to be part of my journey to inform the work that I do today. I wouldn't be the purpose life coach that I am for leaders had I not gone through the challenges that I went through with 7.5 years of career misalignment. Was it the scenic route here? Definitely. Did I see some things I wanted to not see? Definitely. But it's what got me here, right? So that's level 3. We call them the flower or the surrenderer. Surrenderer. Anyway, I can never get that one right. But that's level 3 is all about surrender, right? And that's what actually is the faculty that takes you from level 2 to level 3 is the art of surrender. And it's kind of frustrating because the things that get you out of level 1 to level 2 are actually setting goals, setting targets, getting in control. So you go from, this feminine place to like this masculine place, which is like, and then you've got to surrender back to the feminine place, which is level 3, which is like, now I've got to flow again. So with that in mind, absolutely, goals can help you chart your way out of victim. But then at a certain point, goals also tap out because at level 3, you want to start setting intentions and allow the universe to surprise you with your goals. So I don't really set goals as much as I do anymore rather than set intentions. So just wanted to frame that up in there. Absolutely what you were saying earlier, like, gut imbalances, like if you're actually out and you feel like your head's out, like a good course of probiotics can be really helpful. Just getting your gut health in order can really help with your mindset. Just a little pepper that in there. But like you said, I think what you're alluding to on a deeper level is what I believe, and this is the framework in the book that I've put together called Metta Flow. the key thing in there is we are the universe looking in on itself, right? So curiosity is innate to who we are as a being, right? Because the universe, consciousness is kind of folded in on itself, trying to witness itself, trying to know thyself. It's having this experience where I get to sit here, experience you guys over there. We're doing this really, what? Like it's such, and you can't deduce much about that, right? But one of the things you can say for sure, or I believe you can say for sure, is that there's curiosity baked into the fabric of everything around us, right? Like curiosity is almost like a divine source code. Yeah. So curiosity is fundamental to the nature and the tenet of the universe that we're living in. Now, in there, you've got a certain amount of curiosity that, like, the curiosity that you were born with, there's things that you're curious for. All the sages that I've interviewed on the podcast say we generally know, kind of, we pick the lessons that we're here to learn. We kind of know what we're here for in this lifetime before we incarnate, take on this soul's journey. Don't know, but that's what they say. So your soul is here with a certain amount of curiosity. Now, what happens is as we grow, our curiosity kind of gets hijacked, right, into conformity, right, so that we can live life in accordance with society, with values from our family, etc., etc. We're encouraged to live life a certain way. And so we sort of, the way I put it is our curiosity gets hijacked, right? We get conditioned and formatted for the world. And that's fine because we have to sort of learn how to be in the world. But generally what ends up happening is, I noticed this about myself. Like I was always academically quite sound because that's what my parents valued and praised in me. That's what I found teachers appreciated me for. If I had my hand up first and I answered the question fastest and correctest, then there was like, good job. And, the plant grows towards the light, and kids are this little plant that grow towards the light that is the affection and attention of adults and parents, right? And we continue to do that. So as we continue to grow, we sort of grow towards this light, which is not our own inner light, if you will put it that way, right? And so we end up with these curiosity points that are not naturally ours, that hijack us from our original curiosity. And therein lies a lot of this uncomfort, distress. Like I had four options as an Indian kid growing up. I could be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or a failure, right? Like those were my options. And I didn't want to be a failure, right? So I became an engineer. In fact, I tried to be a superhero. I wanted to build intelligent prosthetics and combine engineering and medicine together initially, but it didn't work out. But nonetheless, that's kind of how we grow off our center, right? And that's where curiosity is so sacred. So identifying between your sacred curiosity versus hijacked curiosity is really important. And that ultimately, to understand what is your sacred curiosity, fundamental to your curiosity, just underneath there, what you've got to come to understand are your values, right? And the way I say it, I'm Indian, so I can get away with this, but they're the pillars of the temple that is you. My body is a temple. So your values are the pillars. Your values are the pillars of the temple that is you, right? So mine's a connection, contribution, and celebration. And so what you find is that your soul and your personality, you can call them whatever you want. All the spiritual teachers have got higher self, lower self, ego, spirit. I like the terminology from Gary Zukav around soul and personality. It seems to have the least baggage around it. So yeah, soul and personality. When you can line yourself up in your life to live into your personality based on your values, that's where the aperture, like I'm talking camera now, like has the most amount of light to just flow through this temple that is you, right? But when we're hijacked off our and not living in alignment with our values, everything's shut down. The reason we were put here on earth, we're going against the grain as opposed to living into our innate calling, which is based on our sacred curiosity. Now, if you don't know, again, get in touch with your values. For those that don't know what their values are, I've got a little masterclass, inspiredevolution.com/values, 20 minutes from now. You'll be just as clear as I am on my values. You'll know yours. Now, why are they so important? You look back at the career misalignment. Like, I look back and I was working as an engineer. Was there any connection in there? Not really. Was their contribution? Yeah, like I'm from an immigrant family here in Australia, from India, and we were building high-rise towers, homes for young families. Sure, there's some sort of contribution. Was it the contribution I want to have? No, I'd much rather be doing what we're doing here today, right? Meditation, conscious conversation, inspired evolution-y kind of conversations, right? Heart-based conversations. So half of value being met in contribution. Celebration, there was none. So I was living into like half of a value out of my top three, 1/6 of the way there. So that to also say, like, corporate construction is not a terrible job. It's an amazing job for the right person that has those values. It just wasn't Amrit's place to be, right? My sacred curiosity was not curious about that. I'm more inner space, outer space mindset, how we live this life to the most like expanded experience that we possibly can, with a healthy dose of spirituality baked into there. So that to say, understanding your values is fundamental to understanding whether your curiosities are innately true to you. Yeah. And the reason that's important is because if you can actually draw a ring around 3 or 4 or 5 things that you're curious about and allow them to play with each other, right? So I'm curious about spirituality, curious about conscious media, curious about entrepreneurship, leadership. I'm curious about positive impact. Oh, this is now starting to look like a podcast, right? So that's the birthplace of the inspired evolution. Doesn't have to be a podcast for anybody. It could be whatever you want it to be. But if you allow a few things that you're curious about to play, that actually, if you cultivate that, that fills up your cup of passion. And this is when they say fill up your cup. This is what they're referring to. You've got this holy grail, if you will, this chalice, this passion, it's your cup. And in order to fill that up, you've got to spend time hanging out with your curiosities, but allowing them to intersect and play with each other, right? And then if you cultivate your passions over time again and again and again and again, eventually you'll be dripping in passion. It'll just be the overfloweth cup. Yeah, it'll just be overflowing. And from there, someone will reach out and be like, hey, that's really cool. Can you help me with that? And it's like, so for me, my first coaching client came from a podcast audience. So like, hey, these are incredible conversations. Will you coach me? And I was like, on what? They're like, the conversations you're having, just have them with me. I think they'd be valuable. And you're like, you'd pay for that? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, I do this for free. Like, I enjoy these conversations. I'm just curious about this stuff and I'm just filling up my cup, touchwood. And so from the overfloweth cup, and this is the hack, well, the hack, the insight is your passions are for you, but your purpose is just you serving your passions to others, right? So it's just service. So initially you had to cultivate your curiosities and then you just have to serve your passions. Now, one of the challenges we end up with is people are curious about coffee and then they'll go set up a coffee business because they're like, I've got a deep why and a purpose around it. They won't take the time to cultivate passions, travel to South America, visit a farm, spend some time. Are you naturally cultivating the passion around this? Because you might find as you continue to cultivate passion, it allows it to evolve, it allows it to mature. Maybe it's not for you, maybe it is. But that period, especially in today's fast-paced society, people go, I'm curious about this, I'm going to set up a business around this. I'm curious about this, I want to go work here. Just take a quick beat, allow your cup of passions to fill up, and from there, naturally serve. And that gives you, like, touchwood, now I say the podcast has been going for 8 years, and it sounds like a long time. For me, it literally feels like I started yesterday, touchwood. So I'm just passionate about it, right? Because I've got curiosity points that are built upon my values that naturally energize this whole system, right? So I bring that into the frame because yes, goals, but ultimately, curiosity points and that aperture of understanding, these are my values and am I living in alignment to them? That's where it starts. And then organically allowing your curiosities, taking some time strategically to cultivate them, to fill up your cup of passions, to live into your purpose. For me, that's what's been incredibly helpful for, like I said, having worked with over 360 people one-on-one now, talks on all different countries and stuff. This is what I'm sharing. So one of the things that I found is basically that depression is 1-for-1 with suppression. Yeah. And that's where we feel like we're suppressing our true, authentic. And this is why creativity is such an antidote to so many things, because you're creatively expressing yourself. So the antidote to depression, to suppression, again, caveat, some people do need SSRIs. Totally acknowledge that, but not wanting to walk around the world medicated. Right, back to where we started today's conversation. So in there, expression is the antidote to suppression, depression. So finding your authentic expression, understanding your core values, and this is who you truly are, and being able to live into that.
I love that so much. A million different ideas coming to mind. Um, just like about the Heart Coherence Collaborative, I'm really passionate about having heart-centered conversations, but like what you said, like going to, where they make the coffee, like I should be going to the places where really the heart is vibrant and
Yeah, and the thing is, you wouldn't force it. Like if you were just that into it, you'd want to go.
right, I do want to go.
Like these
Yeah.
conversations that you're having on like regularly on the on
Mm,
your channel. It's yeah, like for some people this is work, like this is hard work, and for some people it's a strategy for business and things, and it feels like that when you engage with it, and it doesn't feel what it's meant to, like not what it's meant, but what it could feel like when
right.
someone's connecting into someone's heart offering,
Mm,
right? And it feels different, and people can feel that.
absolutely.
Yeah. So you naturally just show up for the things, but you're giving yourself permission to show up for those things as opposed to all the other things that we've been conditioned to show up for.
Mm,
There's there's a bit of work in there. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, so I would love to hear just what's like the biggest lesson you've learned from people that have come on your podcast?
That's always a really hard question to answer. Um, Biggest lesson, back to what I said earlier today with a little get out of jail free card. Yeah, that our
Yeah.
biggest challenges equal our biggest gifts.
Mm,
Everybody that I've interviewed, because to get them on, and sounds a bit rude, but they're of note, right? So they've done something remarkable in the world, and you get them on because people want to tune into them, and it's literally 100% of the time. Like there is not anybody that I've got on, and that, like I know that sounds a bit extreme, but 100% of the time they went through a certain challenge that they learned to. Marissa Peer, classic example, the hypnotherapist to celebrities, the stars, like got RTT, rapid transformational therapy, was a maid, was consistently told she was going to amount to nothing. You're not good enough. You're not enough. She's a champion for the message, you are enough, and is a hypnotherapist around that.
mm,
Like you see that everywhere, right? Like again and again. That's just one example, but all the podcasts basically speak to this. Your biggest challenges are your biggest gifts. That's what the podcast has taught me. In terms of engaging with the podcast as an entrepreneur, what that's taught me is the power of consistency. I just do a podcast every week, and my whole life has been very different because of just staying committed to something and the process. And it's completely revolutionized who I've become. Yeah.
mm.
You're talking about, and I think a lot of people now seem to be focused on having a career, a vocation that would be extremely passionate for them. And I wonder, well, there's a part of everybody that probably thinks, somebody's got to like sweep the room or like do some of the, you know,
Mhm.
the things that aren't like these fun, glamorous, passionate things. So, but I wonder, do you think that this is a sign of spiritual evolution, or do you think it's just also there's a factor of jealousy from seeing people on social media and, you know,
It's a great question. Sorry, I've interrupted. Sorry.
no, that it really was basically done. I think you got
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
message of it.
It's interesting because I look at, so my son goes to daycare now. Yeah. And he'll just spend time cleaning windows. And part of me gets triggered, which is like, bro, you're here to learn a thing or two. Like, what are you doing? Like cleaning windows. He's 3. But that's his jam. Like the other day we were at home and he's like, go to bed. And he's like, I'm going to clean the rumpus. And it's
Oh,
like, bro, like that's, but he's just got, and I'm not saying he's going to grow up to clean, but there are certain things that are innate to who we are that and there's a lot of stigma around certain things. When you said that, there's this, there was a guy that, like, there's a story, but I'll keep it short, but I don't even remember it completely. But basically, they ended up interviewing a janitor that worked for NASA, and they asked him, "What do you do?" And he goes, "I put people on the moon." Yeah, it's like I'm helping, like we're all part of this mission. We're all part of this why I'm putting people on the moon. Yeah. So I think the context of, and even, and this is interesting because in India, when you go back in ancient history, they used to say there was the untouchables.
Mm.
And in people's mind, like the collective, when you hear that, it's like those untouchables that could actually do the work of collecting the trash and putting it out and stuff like this. Those people were scum. That's the word that's attributed to that, like a scum, slum. But actually, if you understand like Vedic philosophy, like actually what's going on in there, those people are so pure that they could actually do that work without tainting their spirit, was kind of the mental model that was available in the philosophy behind that, right? Still has many sort of there's many leprechauns in that hole, nonetheless, touch wood, right? But nonetheless, I think speaking to, are some things more illustrious than others? Are certain things, I think, yes, you're right. Social media has this very like, it's a double-edged sword, right? Like Touchwood, like we can engage with it as creators to hopefully create a positive ripple in the world. But even in this conversation right now, there are people that could guide even better meditations, not better, but like anyway, even guide epic meditations just like I did today, but they don't have airtime.
Mm.
Right. And it's like, but then for them, there's some tinge of, hey, like, why can't I do it? I'm not good enough. And it leaves an impression. And that's not the intention at all. Right. It's like, hey, if I can do it, you can totally do it. Like, come on, buddy, and like live into your fully expressed self. So, yes, in the world, there is very much the nature of duality, if you will. But yeah, I do think social media is a bit of like, is quite treacherous. In the shadow side of it leaves people not feeling like they're enough when they're comparing themselves to others. I call it comparisonitis. Yeah, but also it is quite a powerful tool, and just having the awareness of what it's good for and what its limitations are, definitely. In terms of, is everybody meant to be, like one of the things that I did way back when was a tool called Wealth Dynamics, and it teaches you like based on Chinese medicine how you're most archetyped out to make your money in the world. And for me, I think I was also somebody that like believed in social media and all this stuff and was like, I want to be a star, I want to be a star, I want to be a star. And then when I did Wealth Dynamics, it's like, you're not a star, you're a supporter. And actually, as I've rested in that awareness, it gave me permission to be more me. And it was like, yeah, great. Like on the podcast now, I showcase people. It's a blessing to be here being showcased. But ultimately, it's like, showcasing other people on the podcast for 8 years straight. I found my zone of genius, if you will, where I do really get to shine like a star, but playing into who I really am, which is a supporter. That's why I work so well as a coach. I'm a supporter, right? And there's accumulators, there's mechanics, there's creators, there's all sorts of different people, right? So this is where we don't all have to be, and there's a whole part to this in Metaflow, but I'm conscious of talking more about the book because I can talk about it forever. I wrote a book about it. But the key thing in there is, yeah, there's giving yourself permission to be exactly who you are. Yeah, is really important because, and that again ties back to your values. And when you know your values, like for me, the idea of a construction project manager was like this huge, like that's really illustrious. I want to do that. And when I was like, hey, you're going to be a pot, like my parents kind of still struggle with the fact that a radio channel. And it's like, yeah, I guess if you strip it back, that's kind of what's going on. You're an engineer, radio channel. And it's like, yeah, look. And it's like, yeah, I guess, but this is, touch wood, this is what I'm up to in the world. So, once I know my values, but I do podcast, I get to connect, I get to contribute, I get to celebrate 100% of the time. Coaching, I get to connect, I get to contribute, I get to celebrate 100% of the time. Public speaking, connection, contribution, celebration. This is, I get energized around it. I could be dog tired rocking up to a podcast like this today and I'll leave buzzing because I got to do who I was put here to be, touchwood. I'm filling up my cup.
Oh, that's amazing. So we'd love to hear how we could support you, how the Heart Coherence Collaborative could support you, and how everyone could get in touch with you, man. Yeah, how can
Oh
we
my
help
God.
you on your journey?
You guys are already doing it. It's such a pleasure and an honor to just be able to share. Yeah, just to be able to share with you guys. For those that are, yeah, enjoying conversations like this, I mentioned this, I've got a podcast. I generally say YouTube is the home of the Inspired Evolution podcast, but it's available everywhere. Spotify, etc., etc. There's a beautiful brother who passed away actually 3 years ago, who was a mentor of mine. And I'll just share some of his wisdom here because his name's Noberto. He's passed away, but one of the things he would always say, and his work would impart so much in everybody's life that he came across. And he would say, Noberto, what can we do for you? like anything, just, you name it, would love to be of support. And his wisdom, this guy, he'd be like, for me, please, please look after yourself to the best of your ability. And it just would just melt your heart whenever he'd say it. You'd just be like, Nevada, I just. So there's that piece, right? Like, so ultimately, it's, yeah, please take the time to look after yourself, care for yourself. And ultimately, for me, you spent the time enjoying the meditation today, listening into this. It does sort of intrigue me that people will listen to what we've shared, but then not do the practical bit. Take 20 minutes, discover your values. inspiredevolution.com/values, 20-minute masterclass. You'll know what your values are, and you can look at your life and have a look at how it's going and go, yep, this is in alignment to my values. Oh, this isn't, and maybe less of this and more of that. It's a really simple diagnostic. People bring me opportunities all the time now, touch wood, thanks to the growth of everything. And I just run it through my values. Will this enable me to connect more, contribute more, celebrate more? If not really, then it's a no. It might be an amazing opportunity, but it's not for Amrit. So yeah, I highly encourage everybody to discover your values, get the masterclass. If you're interested in checking out the podcast, please do. All of this is designed to help you look after yourself better.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. This has been great, and hopefully we could do it again sometime.
I'd be absolutely honored. Thank you guys so much
More
for having me on.
meditation, more questions.
Yeah.
Those are our two curiosity and passion things. So this was great. Thank you so much. And we're sending love to everybody out there.
Bye, everybody. We love you.
Thank you for your blessings. Big.